call this regular meeting of the Bethel Public Site and Building Commission to order at 7 o'clock. Don't have a flag, so we won't do that.
Nancy, I just need to make sure that I know who's here and who's not.
Okay, so Gil from the Public Site and Building Commission, Gil Letelier, David Olson, Bob Germanaro, Dino Gualtieri, Roy Steiner, John Menti.
Okay, who's missing?
For now, so John Perna and David Horvath, although they may join us. Sometimes David is on work calls and jumps in late, but I can let you know. And I know John Perna is dealing with opening of school stuff, so he's missed a few things. Oh, here comes David Horvath.
Okay.
And then everybody else is part of the school project. So I don't know if you need all those names too.
Nope, that's fine. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Good evening.
So yes, I called the meeting. Hi, David. I called the meeting to order. Public input. I don't see anybody who's not part of the team, so I don't believe we have any public input. And then we have to approve the meeting minutes from our special meeting. So
was there any correspondence? Nancy, any correspondence?
There's no correspondence. Okay. It's not part of this, the different parts of the projects that we're working on. So anything that was sent out ahead of time, I don't think there's anything new. So thanks for asking.
All right.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from our special meeting on Tuesday, August 18th, 2020.
Second.
Dave Olson seconds. And everybody had time, Kathy had sent those out ahead of time to check those out. I don't think there's anything that we need to correct or update unless anybody else saw anything. Are we good? So let's vote on that. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Is anybody opposed? Good. John Perna wasn't at the meeting, but he's not at this one either. So if he were here, he would have to abstain. Okay, so now we'll move into old business on our school projects. First on our list of bullets, construction progress and schedule update. I don't believe we got anything in writing from Rizzo.
There were no written reports, so we'll just depend on verbal report from Rizzo and then follow that up or integrate that with Rick Bielecki's report as to commissioning status. So Ken could start.
Okay, so for Johnson, we've for the site work, we've put down the binder course, continuing with the curbing, the concrete curbing and sidewalks, and getting ready for the final course by the end of the week. For the building B, first and second floor classrooms and admin offices, we're focusing on completing all the casework, which is probably 95% today, and putting in the remainder of the sinks on the first floor and second floor. And furniture is moving in. We have the elevator back working. The toilet partitions are done. The lockers are installed. We're working on the terrazzo floor, putting the flooring back where the patches had to come up for the plumbing. And most of the ceilings we've got padded out everywhere. So it's at this point we're going to be going through various inspections for the TCO. The kitchen is being ready also for inspections. They're coming in tomorrow and they're going to be cleaning it up and doing some equipment checkouts. And so we'll prepare for some Thursday inspections there. And it's pretty much the exterior. We have some fencing going up. The pavement for the playground area was done. And so we're working on getting the fencing installed today to complete that. So there's a fenced in area. And same with finishing up the retaining pond fencing. And just some welding for the chiller pipe is being done downstairs at the boiler room. And that's pretty much it. Outside of like the amphitheater, brick is started for those sitting walls.
Question?
So, Bob has a question.
I believe Dave had one first.
Dave also has a question.
So Ken, there are 14 days until school is supposed to open. Are we going to be able to open on September 8th with children with a CO?
Yes.
With no contingencies on the CO?
So, on a certificate of occupancy.
Well, we do have commissioning things to talk about. I'd like to give Rick an opportunity to speak, and then, you know, we'll have to have some more conversations about that. Physically, I think you'll be okay. It's make sure that we're all comfortable with the commissioning aspect of it.
Bob Germanaro.
Yes, you mentioned, Ken, that they'll be welding various pipes in the boiler room. Will this complete the chiller pipe welding project?
Yes, it will.
So now this will lead into testing the chillers?
Yes, after installation, you know, after the piping testing and installation, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, and this is for Johnson School.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and I heard Building B. So is Building B also referred as Johnson, or is Building B within Johnson?
It's within Johnson.
Okay.
It's a phase of the project. In the
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure. I'm a newbie, guys.
Yep, that's okay. And we appreciate Dion filling in for Kathy, so she's going to do the best she can, and we'll help her out all along the way. So then, Ken, you're going to continue along with your report on Johnson?
Yeah, I think that wraps up most of the major items for Johnson.
So I have a question, Ken or Jim, is the cafeteria and kitchen needed for opening of school, and are they in a place to be completed?
Just the kitchen.
Just the kitchen.
Yeah, and yes, it is. It's we're close to having it ready for inspections right now.
Okay, when you said they were coming in for inspections, were you talking about some commissioning stuff, or were you talking about inspections from health, et cetera, for the kitchens?
We have like Ansel startup for the hood for fire suppression, mm-hmm. and there's just some basic startup for the kitchen cooler and the health inspection is Thursday.
Okay. And you'll be ready for that. You'll be ready for the health inspection on Thursday, Ken?
That's our goal, yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Ken on Johnson? Remembering that Rick's gonna come in with comments on commissioning, et cetera. So there'll be a combination of Rick and Ken and Jim going through that part.
Oh, Nancy, I hate to be a pest, but I got one more question.
Sure.
Since you mentioned the kitchens, Ken or Jim, do you have a plan on when we're going to test fire the cooler and the freezers?
Thursday morning at Johnson, and I have to check to see if they got the person tomorrow at Rockwell. So it could be Thursday for both schools.
Okay, good. Very good.
So Ken, with the kitchen at Johnson, the current schedule is that the cafeteria staff was going to be moving in come Monday. So if that gets pushed at all, we just need to know.
No problem, Terry. I would expect Thursday for there to be some list from Laura. So I'll know better then, and we can certainly let you know as soon as we do if there's an issue in there.
Okay, because they have to move all their small wares and they've got to stock food. So
Okay.
if we need to move it, we just need a little heads up.
And maybe Bob, if you're around tomorrow, we can just kind of go over how you think that the kitchens going to want to be supplied as far as getting things in and out. I don't know how big the deliveries are that you're going to have with what you're trying to do with the kitchens, but I just want to walk through that with you, what we've gone through with Tom as far as separating the space for what Laura's talking about, but there's the practical aspect of you guys actually getting materials into the kitchen. I just want to go over that with you if you're out there tomorrow.
Yeah, sure. But just keep in mind, we bring pallet size deliveries in. So a standard pallet size delivery can be expected into both the refrigerator and the freezers. And then food, actual boxes of food, come in pretty much the same way in a standard size pallet.
Okay. If we could look at that tomorrow.
Sure. Very good. Thank you.
Yep.
Right. I had some just general questions, and it might open up more items with, my concerns is the TCO, the air exchanges, and the chiller. When the chiller is going to be online, the air addresses are answered to Chris Baldwin's satisfaction, with the TCO. Just and I suppose you might want to get into that later, but I just wanted to bring it up.
So will that be answered when Rick Bilecki jumps in with commissioning, Ken and Jim?
Yes.
Okay, so Roy, can we wait till that?
Yep, that'll be fine.
That's
and then, okay, the load docks, are they planning on being opened or not? Is it?
No, they weren't included in the turnover, but that's what I just want to go through with Bob, because I don't think, even in talking to Tom, anybody realized we were talking about moving pallets into and out of the kitchen. So just want to go through that tomorrow to make sure whatever we're building as a temporary enclosure will work with that.
Yeah, because the one at Rockwell surely didn't look anywhere near ready to put stuff into it.
It wasn't part of the turnover area, no.
Okay, that's what I was. And then also the load dock on Johnson, the gas meter is about 3 feet away from one of the load docks. So I'm assuming we're going to put ballards up along their front before we let anyone back in there.
It's going to have to be,
Isn't that,
absolutely. Even if it's something temporarily.
Exactly.
I thought it was getting moved eventually.
It's an awful spot.
Well, it is, and it would need protective bollards around it. But I thought there was something about eventually it getting moved to a safer spot, but I don't know if that was me remembering some of their conversation from a year ago.
But even if we are doing, temporary, movement
right.
position, there's got to be some protection there.
Yeah,
Yep.
I agree. Maybe something like a Jersey barrier, because I'm going to be a little nervous around winter time with the snow plowing.
I'm nervous right now, Bob.
Yeah.
So if it's staying there, it's going to have something permanent. If it's temporary for now, throw a Jersey barrier in front of it until we get the permanent solution. If there is one, that's part of the plans, great. If not, we'll have to create something.
Right.
Right. It is scheduled to stay there.
Okay.
Whoa.
And with it scheduled to stay there, is there some plan of putting something, some bollards, steel or concrete filled bollards or something around it?
We'll talk to Joe and see what we need to put in there, if a Jersey barrier works better, or bollards. We could do either or.
Okay.
I think for
Anything
aesthetics,
else?
the ballard would look better than having a Jersey barrier there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, absolutely. Once this big cement barrier there, the school's already redone.
Anything else on Johnson? Roy, any of the other questions on Johnson?
No, I'm more concerned about the overall operations.
Right. So we can go into that with the commissioning once we finish up. So if anybody has any other questions on Johnson, let's do those. Otherwise, Ken can jump into his report on Rockwell.
Okay, for Rockwell, for the site work, we put the binder course down at the main driveway in the front of the school today, and completed the probably 75% of the bus loop in the back. Did the whole circle and got all the way back to close to the where the building ends and where the portables were. Not quite that far. So they'll be finishing up that binder, and then same with over at Johnson. They'll be putting the finish course by the end of the week. They did find out they're doing a finish course tomorrow for the teachers' parking lot over at Johnson. So it's going to be a couple days of finish at the end of this week for both schools. So for the first floor classrooms, got the casework finished, the plumbing and the sinks finished up, the floor tiles were being cleaned and waxed, and painting's done, the furniture's being moved in, ceiling pads were put in. So for the classrooms, they're in pretty good shape. It's more of a matter of balancing at this point. There's the terrazzo floor has to be done this week, and we're probably going to be doing that double shifts, I think, at both schools. And there's still some door hardware and things like that that they're working on. The lobby, when you get up to the lobby area, the wood ceilings are going in. Temporary partition was put in going out the back. The stair one area is all getting cleaned out. That was getting done tonight. The nurses area is pretty much complete. We got to put the nurses curtains in and clean it up, and some base, and that area is pretty close to being ready. Same thing in the guidance, some flooring, carpet tiles, and that'll be ready. And then when you go down to the kitchen area, it's sinks, plumbing and sinks have been installed, and equipment have been wired, and we're looking to start getting it all cleaned up and ready for the inspection on Thursday.
Who's rustling? You need to mute yourself.
Ken?
Yes.
In the 2 kindergarten classrooms at Rockwell, we had to put the steel beams in for support. Is that all
Yeah.
completed now and floor finished around it, or?
It's about halfway.
No, it's not. What we've had to do there, because just sourcing the steel has been taking longer than we have time for, unfortunately. We've got temporary columns in there, and we've surrounded them with chipboard to cover them. We went over that today with Chris and Tom, showed them what we had done there. So,
All right. Do you think that will be done before school, or?
I don't think so. Only because there are several things we're waiting for from the steel manufacturer. So we have our concerns with him, but Chris is going to note it as a condition PTO for that room. So it's something we want to try to get done as quickly as possible.
Right. I mean, that's something, if school starts, that may have to be done at either a nighttime or a Saturday, Sunday type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Excuse me, is the other person speaking with Ken Hunt, is that James Delaney?
Yes, that's Jim Delaney.
Yes.
Okay, thank
Also-
you.
Hey, Ken, when is the roof going to be finished off as far as the coping and, the perimeter, the drip edges around the whole building?
He was waiting for the metal, and I was told it wasn't a long lead item. So if it comes in a week, I'm going to give you an honest answer. I believe it'll be sometime in probably the second, third week of September.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the water problems.
So is the roof watertight now without the coping and et cetera? Or is that a concern we have to?
No, he's got it watertight around on the edges.
Yeah, around the edges. He still has 2 existing leaks in there that we're chasing with him now, but they're not from the perimeter of the building.
Okay, and so that coping, the steel that you need for those classrooms, those are some of the things that you're having some trouble. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in construction right now that's really hard to get a hold of.
Some of this is COVID, some of it's, it could be when he ordered it, who knows, but this is what we're being told.
Okay, Dave Olson has a question.
Yes. Ken, let me ask the same question I did about Johnson. When will Rockwell School be ready for children in 14 days with a CO with no contingency?
It's
dependent.
I'm sorry, I didn't need to jump in. We'll let Rick talk, especially Rockwell, physically complete. I don't see any issues. The kitchen, we'll know Thursday if we have any issue, but we wouldn't be talking about issues that would delay it past that point. But I have concerns about as far as being able to complete the commissioning on Rockwell. So that we'll let Rick speak, and then we'll have that discussion.
Okay, Jim, let me respond like Kamala Harris would. I take that as a yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Is that right?
So
Yes, if we can put our heads together and solve this commissioning issues that we have, yes, I don't see a problem.
There's our friend over there on my picture in the top right is Terry, and she needs to know whether or not we're going to be ready.
well, Terry, Bob, Christine, who's not on tonight, all need to know. And I think that if anybody has any other questions about Rockwell specifically, or Johnson, for Ken or Jim, other than those, the systems that seem to be, so it's mostly, but that's big, MEP, specifically HVAC at both schools that we need to have life safety on, we need to have air exchange. There's a lot of different things that need to be ready to go and commission, because Chris Baldwin relies on the commissioning to come up with his reports and okays, he and Tom Galliford, and somewhat Laura also. So if there aren't any other.
Yeah, I had a
kind of
question to, I got a question for Ken and on the front facades, on the entryways on the parent side, are those going to be completed?
Not at Johnson, the front entrance, they won't be.
On Rockwell, the stuff
Okay.
where you come in, there's a lot of phenolic areas that are not completed yet, or they weren't on Friday of last week. So I don't
Yeah,
know
no,
whether
they did get most, the only thing not in there now is the soffit material, which is what we're waiting to come in. They did get the sides done on that. Once the roof flashing comes in on the cap on the roof comes in, that'll finish off the top of that. But right now we're just waiting for the underside of that. They did get the sides done and the front done on that.
Okay, yeah, because when I was there, the sides weren't complete yet.
Right,
either.
right.
The windows and what have you, and I think it steps back over to the Johnson one, kind of what I call the storefront windows, still didn't have all their trim strips and what have you on them.
Especially in the, it would only be in the areas we're not turning off, like the cafeterias of both schools. We have to do the exterior trim on all of those. Yes, those are not in yet.
Okay, I wasn't too sure if it was still on the Rockwell too. I can't remember. I'm
No,
just trying.
Rockwell's still not done. There's a detail up at the top where with the cap flashing involving the window there. So there's a little bit of work there to be done over the top of that window.
Yep, yep. And then I'd walked in with Chris Baldwin last week, and it was regarding one bathroom area. We're looking up through the ceiling up to the upper floor, and the pans had been deteriorated, or the floor decking, the decking that for the concrete was deteriorated, and there was talk of that having to be redone. Can you just go through that a little bit?
Sure. So in Rockwell, where you had the second floor gang bathroom, you had the waistline comes through the floor. So over the years, I would imagine there were leaks. Those leaks led to the deterioration of not only the concrete, but also the metal deck in there. There's two spots, I believe it's one in the girls, one in the boys, that are fairly large. The remainder of the spots are not as large. They kind of contained around where the waistline was. So what the conclusion that we got last week from the structural engineer was they want us to go from up above, remove a square, whether it's 2x2 or 1x1, till we find good concrete, and then form up and replace that concrete.
So that's going to require pulling the floors out again upstairs?
Yes, it is.
Is that something that has to be done before start of school?
No, we've spoken to Chris. We've spoken to frustratingly, this is not new information, but the solution is new. So we spoke to Chris and the architect about that. And no, it's not a life safety issue. It's not an imminent collapse situation. It's going to have to be scheduled, after hours. I don't know that it would be work after hours because it's a bit of work. So it would probably be a Friday night into a Saturday and a Sunday.
So how is this going to be handled? A cost to the town.
We can talk about that. We're putting it out for pricing now. It's going out to the subs as a change because we're going to have to remove that material. It certainly wasn't it was an unforeseen condition for sure.
But when did it come up, Jim? That's what I'm trying to understand.
We brought it up on June 17th. We got an answer last week on what to do with it.
Okay, that's what I have a problem with. So we have completed schools that we're going to be jackhammering pieces of the floor out.
Yes.
You couldn't see it through the demolition down below because upstairs it would just look like a clean hole through the concrete. But when you were doing the demolition below, then you could see the rusted deck.
I'm concerned of the cost. I can see a significant amount of money here.
So we'll keep track of that. keep an eye on it. And you think it's something that could be done in a weekend, or is it something that's going to have to wait until?
Honestly, once we had the discussion with Chris that we're not going to require this for Friday, it's something we need to take a closer look at and sequence out.
Okay, because I kind of see it being more than a weekend, and it's almost like something that needs to be when school's out of session for a period of time.
I would
Yeah, I
think
would think
so.
so.
Bob, did you have?
Yeah,
Bob Terminero.
just keep in mind, it's going to be a little bit of logistics on our end to remove the furniture, any classroom materials that may be in the way, and then have setup time as well.
It's the gang bathrooms. It's the tile floors of the gang bathroom.
Oh, okay, very good.
And are the
Very good.
bathrooms above each other, one above the other, so you don't have a bathroom above a classroom, right?
Correct.
Okay, I mean, that's usually how things are set up, but just checking.
Okay.
A little easier. It's still gonna make quite a mess. So, Roy, anything else?
No, I'm good. I have the same questions, the commissioning.
Everybody does.
And
Geraldine, did you?
no, I see Rich has a question first.
Oh, Rich Straighten. Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, if we can go back to Johnson School for a second, were we
Sure.
able to get a quote for that alternate 8, I think it was, for extending the ball field?
I thought we weren't going to be looking at that right now. But does anybody know where we are with that?
Well, at last week's meeting, I come to find out that the bid has gone bad or has lapsed.
Right.
It was an alternate that Dr. Carver was looking to possibly do for the number that was quoted, but now it might be a different number, and we were asking what's the new number. And this has been a whole bungle from the beginning. We had 4,000 yards of extra fill, then we had 2,000 yards extra fill, then we didn't have any extra fill.
So my understanding is that we're not concentrating on the alternate right now. We were concentrating on what the base bid requirement was to restore the field. And after the last Public Site and Building Commission meeting, Perkins Eastman came back with pointing us all in the direction of where in the spec did it deal with what needed to happen to the field at the end of the project. So there is owed to the project, owed to the town, a restoration of that field, including, I'm gonna probably misremember, but like 8 inches of, of topsoil, and then planting the field again. Joe, do you recall the details of that? But even after he describes the details, I think where we're going to end up is just using that dirt and restoring the soccer field at the size that it's at.
Yeah, I don't recall the exact amount, 6, 8 inches. Trying to see.
Well, the issue is you're not just going to put 6 inches of soft dirt on top of a road bed that they've been driving. That underneath needs to be irrigated or fluffed up or something.
Right, and I thought Joe sent something to us.
I did. I'm trying to find it.
I'm looking for it too.
I do believe that the specifications talked about how to scarify the field, the dirt that's there, how to treat that before we put on the new field.
Right.
Yeah, it's,
okay. That's what I'm looking for.
It's section 3.1B of the turf and grasses specification section. So it's remove existing grass, vegetation, and turf. Do not mix into surface soil. Loosen surface soil to a depth of at least 8 inches. Apply soil amendments and fertilizers as necessary to mix thoroughly into top 6 inches of soil. Till soil to a homogeneous mixture of fine texture. Apply fertilizer directly to surface of soil before loosening. And then remove any stones larger than 1 inch, sticks, roots, trash, and other extraneous matter, and legally dispose of waste material, including grass, vegetation, and turf, off the property. And then there's finished grading that would be the next chapter, but article, but that's the repair work to the subgrade.
Hey, Joe, that's part of the base bid?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So Joe did send that to me on Friday, but it came to me and Geraldine and a few others, so I'm forwarding it to everyone now. Because it does have an attachment with basically what Joe was just reading. I missed out on getting that to everyone.
I do think Richie was right, though, with, I think Ken was going to look at that alternate 8 or whatever it was and just recheck to see if they would still honor those prices, the price for that. So at least we had it, you know, if it became available.
But I'm assuming that would require a bigger pile of dirt.
I don't know.
No? Oh.
That I don't know, Nancy. I thought that we would just double check and see what the price was for that alternate, so at least we have that available.
Okay, I can ask him.
Okay, so Dave Olson.
With respect to the field, it seems to me that this is an opportunity perhaps to build a larger field and improve its quality and therefore improve its overall utilization for the town's programs. That's just a speech, not anything else.
That is a possibility, yet I don't know as we would do that as part of this project completely with.
I think the alternate 8 did add some there.
It did, but if that price is gone and then we have to get another price, and
yeah.
So we'll have to check that out.
Just to check and see what the price is, so we have it possibly available.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me ask Joe. Joe, is that alternate still on the table with the State Board of Education? Is that a still approved possibility?
For reimbursement, I'm actually not sure how that would work at this point. I guess it would be, because it's on the property and everything on the property is eligible for reimbursement.
Right, and it was talked about originally, way back
Yes.
when it was everything was being proposed. The only reason why you didn't accept it originally, you didn't know what what we were going to run into the rest of the building.
Correct.
Anything more on the field? Anything more before we get into Commissioner Gerald?
Yeah, just before we go to the mechanical systems and commissioning, I just wanted to give Joe an opportunity to perhaps just update us on what he's seeing during his punch list visits. So they've been punch listing on various days over the last 3 weeks. And just if there's anything, Joe, you want to add to the condition of either building. Were you out there today, perhaps?
I didn't end up going out there today. We're going tomorrow to do second floor Johnson. So
okay.
I'll be starting at one end, and project architect will be starting at the other end. And then for Rockwell, the project architect will be starting at the kindergarten end of the classroom on the first floor and working her way down, assuming that's ready at this point.
And was there an update on, was the kitchen punch listed today?
No, Neely's going to punch list that on September 4th.
Okay.
So it didn't seem like it was going to be ready for today for her to punch list, and she'll be away until the 3rd. So she'll be back on the 4th, so she'll be able to punch list it before school starts.
All right, then we're probably ready to move on to mechanical systems and commissioning and the TCO.
Can I ask one question?
Yep.
Last special meeting, we talked a little bit about, and I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but we talked about the bank next to the softball field at Johnson. And I think Joe said they were going to look into what they could possibly do, talking to the landscape architect about that. Joe, you have anything on that?
I talked to Maloney McBroom about it. It is graded at a 2-to-1 slope. And Dan reminded me at one point, we did have a break in that was VE'd out at one point fairly early on in SD, I believe he said. And he was going to come out, I think, tomorrow as well to look at it in person. He might have gone today. I'll have to check in with him and see, because he wanted to see it in person before he made any further recommendations.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't want to let this slip by us, because it, you know, again, seeing it and over the weekend again, and it's kind of a scary bank there. And I just can't, I can see some little kid falling down and having all kinds of problems.
Yeah, I think we definitely look at putting a fence on top, and then maybe adding a retaining wall there to break up the slope, or
right.
change the pitch a bit.
Because right now it would be a mowing and maintenance nightmare for the mowing staff.
Right. Yeah, 2-to-1 pitch. So I don't think you can mow. So I think you got to get it up to a 3-to-1 to be able to mow it.
Goats.
Yeah. So I know some of the work there in that area is not complete yet. So there's the accessible route down to the play field, which is a little bit further north of the dumpster pad. So I think your concern is more of to the dumpster pad and then towards the road, right?
Yeah, teacher parking lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah,
right.
Malone McBroom is going to go out there and look at it.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you much.
Okay, so we're ready for Rick and his report. I think so.
All right. How are you?
Good, Rick. Give us some news.
So we've made some very good progress over the last few days. If you wouldn't mind, prior to giving a report on commissioning, just to make sure I'm talking enough about the correct topics, are there certain areas that you'd like me to kind of touch base on more versus anywhere you want, any particular school or system you'd like me to talk about?
So I think what we're looking at here is, I would say, probably 11 people on this call, or probably more, have very, very grave concerns that school is going to be ready to open on the 8th. We've had conversations over the past couple of weeks, some of us just on our own. People have been out to the site to visit. We've had some calls and such. And again, I hear Ken and Jim saying yes, 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 yes. But then I have other people telling me that they don't see it happening. So what we need to know from you, Rick, in doing the commissioning, because there have been questions too about commissioning and how important it is. Do we have to commission before school starts? Yes, we do. We've gotten information from Chris Baldwin saying he needs those reports and he needs that information to know, among all the other things he has to do as far as putting a TCO in place. He doesn't have the time or capacity to check every single little system. That's your job. Some of the systems, not all of them. And so what we need to, you need to put not just the 11 of us who have expressed grave concerns, but everyone else on this call, we need to know what's getting done, what's not getting done, and how realistically, because if some of us have been saying for the past couple of weeks, ain't gonna happen, yet we keep hearing, yes, yes, it is gonna happen. And our concern is not waiting till September 7th to find out it's not gonna happen.
Understood.
What needs to happen to make it happen? And I don't know if Geraldine, if that's kind of summing up everything. Yeah, okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
All right.
Rick, jump right in.
All right, so let me give an overview of what was accomplished the last week and a half, and then I'll kind of go into the next couple days. Mechanical systems. Let's start at Johnson. So we talk about mechanical systems at Johnson. Right now, from a ventilation standpoint, we need DOAS 3, 4, and 5. Above and beyond that, we need associated exhaust fans, 1 2, I think it's 3, and also 5, which are handling the bathrooms. We also need all VAV boxes from the DOAS units, which are providing the fresh air ventilation to the classrooms. Above and beyond that, we need fan coil units in each one of the classrooms, also operational for a means of recirculating the air. So those are the systems we need. We also need the kitchen as well. So this is where we kind of stand with those systems. All associated outdoor air units were started up from the manufacturer. We are still waiting for the official documentation for for a couple of those units, but it's understood and based on a review, the overall startup from a functionality standpoint is in good shape. The units themselves are operational. Gas is onto the units, and the dedicated outdoor air units are also equipped with compressors for cooling and for hot gas reheat, which provides the individual areas with dehumidification. All of that is operational. So we looked at that for DOAS 3, 4, and 5. If we talk about functionality, that is just the units as a whole themselves. We then have to incorporate the control system. Because the units are running in auto, the control system comes into play. If the units were running in hand, it's a standalone. And even though control system is nice, it's needed to overall validate that all the dampers are modulating at this point, that the motors are ramping up, the motors are ramping down, everything's working accordingly, which is why the control system is critical at this particular time versus if it was in hand, basically meaning systems are at a locked position and there's no real means of failure. So we tested the system in auto from a DOAS 3 unit. What we accomplished was we reviewed all associated points on DOAS 3 to include represented alarms and safeties. Above and beyond that, we went through, we confirmed discharge temperature, we confirmed return humidity, static pressure, all from DOAS 3 at the building management system. From a static pressure standpoint, that's how all of the VAVs themselves know when to modulate open and closed, such as each of the individual sensors in the room are based on a CO2 sensor. So if we get past, I forgot what the set point is, 700, 800, 1,000, whatever that adjustable set point is, when we get to that set point in the room, the associated damper opens to ensure ventilation, fresh air is provided. Based on the balancing report that was submitted, the balancing report indicates, in general, the appropriate minimum and maximum for each one of those VAV boxes associated with the DOAS unit. But what we have not validated yet on the DOAS units is we have not validated the VAV boxes. So basically the VAV boxes themselves, those have to be confirmed at the building management system to really ensure that the system itself is modulating as it should. The dampers are going to minimum, they're going to maximum. We're able to run some test simulations in the system, such as a fully loaded classroom is probably 700 to 800 parts per million. So the damper is going to modulate versus we would lower that set point to 100, 150 just to see the system running. That was not yet incorporated into the system. That part of it's being finalized for the VAV boxes and for the fan coil units themselves to circulate the air within the spaces. So that was DOAS 3, 4, and 5 in general. DOAS 4, we simulated all of the actual tests at the roof side to DOAS 4, such as confirming smoke alarm, fire alarm, or the actual smoke damper test we confirmed, high static pressure shut off. We went through all the tests on that unit for DOAS 4, which was good. What still has to be done for the DOAS units is we have to confirm the safeties and all the safeties on DOAS 3, DOAS 5, to include looking at all the VAV boxes and all the fan coil units as well. We also have to confirm all the exhaust fans in the space. We have to confirm everything in the cafeteria. So that's what still has to be done from our standpoint, at least on Johnson.
So Rick, is that doable? What's left within the time period that we're talking about?
So just to kind of clarify, because from a doable standpoint, we know that it's not going to be operational for a few weeks. So
you're saying that
we're looking at this from a, I'm sorry, what's that?
You cut out a little bit. So you're saying something's not going to be operational. Is that the chillers?
The chiller will most likely not be operational for a couple weeks.
Okay.
So Rick, how are you performing your tests?
So at this point, Bob, all we're looking at is a ventilation only from a DOAS unit and modulation of the VAV boxes and correct sequencing of the fan coil units. We are not looking at anything right now in cooling in the classrooms aside from discharge of the DOAS. We don't have anything to look at that against.
Oh,
so
okay.
what we're doing is strictly ventilation.
Oh, okay. I think I missed your point before. Did you say all the fire dampers are working on each one of these units as well?
No, it was tested. So I did not perform any fire alarm testing. And that's something that still has to be confirmed. I did not do that. What we did was we simulated an alarm in DOAS 4. And when we simulated that alarm in DOAS 4, it was confirmed that the supply fan of the DOAS shut down.
Okay. How about CO?
That's the only test that was performed associated with the DOAS. No, nothing with the fire alarm itself.
Okay. How about CO?
So CO, at this time, I was not able to confirm CO. So I understand I will be able to do that tomorrow. So at this time, the VAV boxes were not on the building management system. So in order to confirm CO, I'd like to start at the building management system, manipulate the CO2 set point. So take it from 900, 800, drop it down to 150, 400, 450 to whatever the, ambient is in that particular air. But again,
drive those exhaust fans on.
The exhaust fans to the DOASs.
Yeah.
Exhaust fans
well, when you get high CO, you want to, flap open those exhaust fans to start airing out the space.
So we have not. Again, I understand, but I haven't looked at that yet because I'm not able to manipulate the VAV boxes. So because I can't manipulate the VAV boxes, the exhaust fan can't ramp up. Yes, I can manually ramp the exhaust fan up on the DOAS unit itself, but I wouldn't be simulating true conditions without addressing the associated VAV boxes. So will the exhaust fan modulate? Absolutely, but I wasn't able to perform the test because there was, at the time, the VAV box PID loop for the controls is still in progress of being finalized. I understand, but again,
sorry, I didn't want to get in front of my skis on this one. All right.
So you're talking about the DOAS 3, 4, and 5. Is that because 1 and 2 were part of the earlier phase and they have already been commissioned, et cetera?
Yes, DOAS 2 is part of the addition, and I'm not certain off the top of my head what DOAS 1 is for.
Wait, did you say they were commissioned or just test fired?
On DOAS 2, which was part of the addition, we did go through DOAS 2, but there was never any final sign-off on us from a control standpoint.
Okay.
And also a final sign-off from a unit standpoint, strictly because we didn't have chilled water, we didn't have a completed system. So we reviewed it several months ago, roughly 4 or 5 months ago, really to confirm from a functionality standpoint of providing the adequate ventilation per code standards, code requirements to meet the TCO CO at that time. But a final sign-off didn't happen, but ventilation and adequate functionality was tested.
See, in my world, I try to be careful to use the word commission because that means it's complete. So that's why I asked you that question. Is it?
Nope, it's absolutely
fired?
not complete at all. This is strictly ventilation only that the units were tested on, and the associated safeties just to ensure the units are shut off. By no means at all were the units commissioned. And in all honesty, for these units to be complete, we have to run them through a summer month in Econo, and we also have to run it through the winter time. So even if they were perfect back then, which they weren't, we would still have to run it through a true heating season as well. So final acceptance is from a review of all the associated seasons.
So, and just so everybody understands with commissioning, that's part of what Rick and his team will be doing over a period of time. There's a smaller, I don't want to call it smaller because it's a pretty big thing, to get their commissioning reports so that we get the TCO, we get school open, et cetera. But they have a longer extended period of time where they're going to be working with the controls. They probably will have remote access. I know we did that with the police station where the commissioning were given remote access so they could track each season, all 4 seasons. And then we got a final report at the end.
Hey Rick.
Yes.
Hey Rick, question for you. When the chiller comes online, are you going to have to go through each one of these kind of systems again, or how? What's the? I have some concerns as far as the amount of time that you're going to have to spend on this.
So when the chiller comes online, what's reviewed at that particular time is all the associated outdoor air sensors for outdoor air temperature, outdoor air humidity, the combo of the dew point. So I'm hoping when this chiller comes on, it's going to be mid-September, late September at the very latest. I mean, I'm hoping mid-September. So come end of September, we'll kind of be able to really test the chilled water side and also the economizer side kind of at the same time and hopefully get both of those tests done. But I'm, also hoping that we don't lose this warm weather. Because again, if the chiller comes on too late, I've seen times where past September 15th, you might not have much of a load. So in reality, we will be looking at 2/3 of the associated DOAS and VAV boxes again. Yes, because we can't assume that the dampers mid-max and we can't assume the VAV box itself will have the overall same reaction based on space CO2. But in reality, yes, we are taking that same system and basically reevaluating 2/3 to 3/4 of the same system. Yes.
Okay, good.
I mean, so if we sign off on the air side, they're programming into a PID loop logic, whereas there's all these control boxes. So in reality, we're signing off on it from the ventilation side. But again, when you're programming code to the Niagara system, a lot of this can change depending upon, how the programmer implemented these protocols. So we don't necessarily by any means assume if it was done the first time, it still works. But the test that we do on it becomes a little quicker. So, maybe a 2-hour test drops down to 1 hour and 15 minutes, knowing if this, and this worked. Obviously, the remainder of those also worked, testing certain logic. But all of that is certainly confirmed again.
Right. But now when you're actually testing these now with the chiller not online, you are what, overriding some of the systems, or you're just programming the chiller out of it? So, it's not something physical. They're going to be rehooking wires and what have you. This is just a programming change when everything comes online. Is that correct?
So what the chiller is associated with is all the fan coil units in the classroom. We're actually not able to look at any of that because the chiller is not functional. All we're looking at is to ensure the fan coil unit itself is circulating accordingly. We're checking the motor, checking motor amperages with the balancer. We're just confirming really just airflow. There's really nothing we're able to confirm above and beyond that from a fan coil unit standpoint. It's strictly ventilation of the room. It really limits us at that point.
Okay.
Dave Olson?
Yes, Rick, if I could just clarify a point. The fact that the chillers will not be operational in either Johnson or Rockwell means that the AC systems will not be running for school. Is that correct?
So the general AC system of the school will not be operational.
But no cooling.
Well, let me just clear. I don't want to say no cooling. Let me just clarify the current sequencing that's being implemented. The main primary system is fan coil, which is serviced from a chiller. The primary cooling system by no means will be operational. That will be off, yes, until the chiller comes online. I'll let Rizzo speak on that. I don't know the exact time, but I'm estimating at least 2 weeks. We will not be able to test the AC side of that. But there is AC available at all of the DOAS units, the dedicated outdoor air units, which are providing fresh air ventilation to all of the classrooms. Those systems are DX, so we don't need a chiller.
But not cool air.
No, it is cool air. We can get the air from that chiller down to roughly in a subcool condition with both compressors on. If we wanted to run the system full out, roughly 53, maybe 54 degree air. But a typical classroom needs roughly 500, 600, 700 CFM. Again, don't quote me on these numbers, but it's probably in the 500 to 600 range for a classroom under standard ventilation that you need. But the DOAS units, although they're providing cool air, this is ventilation only. So you're providing roughly 100 CFM. You're providing a small fraction of the air because this is ventilation outdoor air to satisfy the outdoor air ventilation requirements, whereas the fan coil units are the primary cooling and heating system, which provide the base of the cooling. So yes, there will be some chilled air, but the rooms are gonna certainly be hot. It's going to not be completely outdoor air, but the DOAS units will help. Now, I should probably ask this question. So, I mean, on the DOAS units, again, by no means will they make the space anywhere as close to set point when it's 85 degrees outside. It will help. It will certainly help, but you're going to get it down a few degrees. But these units also have dehumidification. So because they have dehumidification, the nice feature about that is it's able to take humid outdoor air and subcool and reheat it. Basically meaning that we can cool the outdoor air to 52, 53 degrees in a subcooling condition under dehumidification. Then we reheat the air and we strip all the humidity out, which in the classroom, we can provide very, very dry air, which makes it comfortable. The negative part about doing that is in doing so, the base cooling system is not operational. So in doing subcool dehumidification, which you typically want to maintain under 60% in a classroom, in doing subcool reheat, you'll actually be discharging 90-degree air out of the supply diffusers on the 1 or 2 that service from the DOAS unit. So one of the things we were looking at is kind of using both systems together. So I guess one of the questions I had was, typically classrooms like to be below 60% relative humidity. 65 is really the max threshold that you want to be at. if we could ride that humidity level up to 65%, it allows us to back off on the dehumidification and provide more cooling. So again, it's one of those things where the system does have both features. Again, if we provide the cooler air, it's going to be good, but again, it's going to drop the space a few degrees. And you're also going to, if you have the cool air, you're going to have the humidity as well. If it's humid outside, you'll have that same humidity pretty close to indoors. Or
I believe all of this is kind of understood by Bob and Terry and Christine, et cetera, as part of looking at opening school, looking out a few weeks into what the weather might be. The fact that I don't believe either of the schools were cooled before.
No.
Right.
No.
So that's being taken into consideration as far as what we need for air exchange and how to operate for that period of time. Without
Yeah, but
children.
Nancy, keep in mind, we were able to open up windows in the older school. We can't on this one.
Got it. So did you find that you had to open windows in the past when it was?
Well, we would put fans in them. We would do whatever we can. You know, we're not going to be able to do that now. Hey, Rick, I have a question for you.
Yes,
how are you heating this air for dehumidification?
how are we heating it?
Yeah.
Gas reheat.
Gas reheat. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Because I was wondering about the because there's no boiler, so.
No, all the boilers are off. All the gas is on through the system currently.
Okay.
Only gas on all the DOAS units are gas reheat.
Got it.
It's all the fan coil units are fed from the boiler system itself.
All right. So you're really only shaving just a little bit of the heat that's coming into the building from the outside, correct?
Roughly 20% of it or so in relation to a classroom.
All right. These kids are not moving. They're staying in the classroom all day. So it's not like they're moving around or changing classes. So it's going to be a little difficult.
Bob, you're saying it's difficult. Rick is saying it's good.
Well, I'll get Rick a chair and a desk and he could sit there. And he may change his opinion.
No, I agree with you. I certainly agree with you, Bob.
All right.
So what else have you been working on at Johnson, Rick, that's getting us moving towards getting school open?
So that's what we have on the DOAS units. That's currently ready. And again, we're going to be hopefully looking at the VAV boxes, fan coil units, and the remainder of the DOASs tomorrow with the kitchen equipment. Above and beyond that, that's kind of the brief rundown of what we have complete on the HVAC system, just from a functionality controls review standpoint.
Hey, Rick, did you look at the letter from Chris Baldwin as far as his requirements of what he's looking for as far as the circulation goes, and can we meet that?
Can we meet that for which day?
We're opening school on September 8th.
I think Chris Baldwin is looking for us to basically certify that, or verify that we're going to be able to meet those requirements.
So from a testing and balancing standpoint, VAV boxes, fan coil units, the DOAS unit, a bulk of the rooftop units themselves all underwent testing and balancing from an air side, ventilation air side only. That balance report was submitted over the weekend. There were several updates since that did look at all the associated ventilation coming into the building. In general, working through that, a lot of those numbers looked like they were in very good shape.
Okay.
But on the control side, that balancing was just completed. So once the balancing is completed, at that point is when you start reviewing the controls, because the duct static pressure set point has to be implemented. All of the fan statics have to be reviewed, updated. So we basically just have that aspect done because now that we're in the control standpoint, the controls have to be reviewed for the min maxes, checking the space CO2, checking all that. So again, today was the first opportunity that we had to go in and begin the controls review. So today really is our first stab at the review of the controls.
And is that just at Johnson?
We haven't done anything at Rockwell.
Okay. And
Can I ask
Bob,
a
did you have-
question?
Yeah.
It's gonna sound very simplistic, but why can't we put maximum effort to get the chillers online? It would save so much trouble in trying to get ventilation and trying to get everything operational. Why can't we just put maximum effort? I know, like I said, it sounds simplistic because I'm not there with the tools in my hand, but it's just a question.
I mean,
It's not simplistic, Bob. What we had looked at, and it was now the beginning of August when we brought Mulvaney out to the job to look at what needed to be done to supplement Action Air. It just became a number of bodies. At this point where he's at is, he's welding down in Johnson. And it's just the number of bodies you can get into that space. I believe he's at that number now. He's in better shape at Rockwell. I do believe in Rockwell that the chillers will be online before the students are in. It's Johnson that's where the push is right now to get all of that welding done.
Okay. I don't mean to throw rocks. I just,
That's a good question. It's a good question of what are we looking at as far as
certainly not
time out.
being ignored, Bob. Absolutely not.
Okay.
Now, right now, what we're trying to satisfy, and we've met pretty regularly with Chris and Rick, and Chris has made pretty clear what he's looking for. For a TCO, he's looking for ventilation. That's his that's his benchmark that he's trying to hit. So I'll be honest, what I'm trying to do now is, including having the owner of Action Air out there, having them focused on meeting that guideline so that we can tell Dr. Carver, yes, we'll have this done for you. As soon as whether that's a day from now or 2 days from now, and I'm most concerned, I'll let Rick finish up, but I'm most concerned about having Rick's time for the end of the week to do Rockwell. Yes, absolutely. The crush is going to be get that chiller piping done as soon as humanly possible.
okay. Thank you, Ken, or Jim.
Bob, I guess. Bob,
I can reiterate what Dr. Carver shared the other day. She said, hopefully that we're starting September 8th and that the long-term outlook after she spoke to the weather service that we participate in, that the outlook doesn't look like we're going to hit another heat wave, because her only real option, as Bob explained, there aren't windows and things we can deal with. So it would be for early dismissals. But our primary concern is that we meet Chris Baldwin's requirements and that all of the safety features are done. We just want a safe building that is operating. And my other question, I do have a question. So all of this work to then get the chiller on board, that work can all be done without interfering with students and school operations?
Especially at Johnson, because it's so much of it is down at that boiler room end, and we still have that entire cafeteria and gym area. The piping itself is run through the building itself, and it's insulated. So primarily the work is going to have to happen. The welding work is happening down in the boiler room, down at that end of the building. When it comes time when he's doing his startups and things like that, that'll have to be worked around student schedules. So that would be where that would come into play.
Okay, because that would be critical. So again, our only flexibility really is if the weather cooperates, and if it doesn't, we'd have to do some early dismissals. But we feel we have to meet what our town official is looking for.
And that is important. As some of us have talked over the past couple of weeks, as I said, we don't want to wait till the last minute to find out it's not going to work. We also don't want to throw one person out there as the quote bad guy for stopping everything. We don't want to say, oh, Rick Bielecki commissioning isn't adequate. We don't want to say Chris Baldwin didn't like Chris Bielecki's commissioning. It's like everybody's working together to get this going and to get this done. And, you know, hearing from Ken and Jim that things are getting done. Haven't been on site. Other people like Bob, Roy, et cetera, have been. And getting it done to the point where we have life safety, et cetera, in place. The lights are on, there's air, there's safe places for the kids to be, having classes, et cetera. And the question would be, and Rick, if you need to get further into doing some commissioning reports too, then finish that. But question is, are we looking at that TCO by Friday, or are we continuing into next week, which is when teachers are going to be in the building and in their spaces trying to set up, et cetera?
So from
I don't know what to answer that.
So from my standpoint, you know, what we will be able to review this week is we're hoping to have DOAS 2, 3, 4, the associated VAV boxes and fan coil units reviewed by the end of the day tomorrow. We're hoping to have that complete. We will probably not get to the exhaust fans tomorrow. We might be able to check the kitchen equipment as well tomorrow. We will be checking the interlocks of KEF1 and also RTU4 just to make sure that everything is coordinated. I understand that was being finalized, I believe, yesterday or today. So during any safeties, those units do shut down. We'll be able to look at a balance report and kind of validate we're getting our min-max CFM. But, I mean, that'll be really from a ventilation standpoint. That'll be from a ventilation standpoint only. It's understood from Rockwell that we do have testing and balancing in progress. We haven't seen the report yet. They started there today, testing and balancing the school. Controls are also being finalized in that school. I understand that there is remote access in that school currently for the building management system, which we will try to work on tomorrow. I also understand the testing and balancing is in progress. Again, if you're looking for anything from my end above and beyond a brief review of the testing and balancing report, that won't happen this week. I mean, we would certainly be able to validate min-max of the balancing report. We will certainly be able to do a review of ventilation to ensure the systems do have the required ventilation air. Absolutely. To test it from a controls functionality standpoint to ensure the dampers are modulating accordingly, the DOAS units, safeties, alarms, fan static pressures are all working. No, that by no means will happen this week.
Is that something that's going to be required for TCO?
TCO.
Anybody know?
I think that's what.
Well, yeah, the safeties, yes.
So ultimately, someone needs to validate it. Yes, the safeties need to be confirmed. The proper unit operation all needs to be checked. Absolutely, all that does need to happen. The only way to really get around that, if it's not checked, is to leave the systems operating in hand. You almost leave everything in a fixed position, and you let the entire system just run, which is, you know, some in theory part.
That's our plan B.
So yes, I mean that's what you could do, and at that point, you know, that would alleviate checking these dampers and checking everything, because again, that is extremely time consuming. Typically, one school like this, you know, can take to just look at the controls, I mean, a week and a half of time. So, I mean, we really drill into the exact PID and simulate all the conditions and check everything, you know, just to make sure that, because even though a balance report says one thing, the controls have to simulate to that motorized damper to actually do that function. So we're actually checking the functionality of it. So to do that this week, no. But if everything is locked, you know, as Bob said, in a fixed position, the supply fan put at 100%, the exhaust fan tracking the supply fan, you know, ballpark less 20% to ensure the building has a slight positive pressure. VAV boxes all set in the upper position and the max position, then spot checking a few VAV boxes all the way down at the end of the line to make sure that those boxes also have adequate air with the front boxes, also 100% open and down the line, and then throttling down on a couple boxes to ensure everything is, for the most part, evenly balanced. Again, it's a manual system, but for the most part, to ensure that every space has, you know, the minimum requirements. Again, some's going to be much higher, some will be lower, but in hand, you'll be able to do that. And then the system basically becomes an on-off system. You could do a very quick balancing like that. You know, that, you know, as Bob said, is a plan B. And at that point, that allows you to look at just the piece of paper to validate, yes, we do have the ventilation air needed. And the control system basically becomes a read-only tool for facilities to really say, hey, the outdoor humidity is really high. You know, based on outdoor air dew point, we have to make the following adjustments to the system at this point to better fine-tune, you know, personnel inside, for the faculty, for the students, versus the system doing it, versus the system doing it itself based on outdoor air sensors. So it becomes more of a manual auto system at that point.
Okay, hey Rick, but I can't be throwing that together the day the buses are pulling in the barn here. That's time consuming to get everything in hand.
Nope, trust me, I understand completely, Bob. And I'm in agreement with you. My only statement was really just from a Rockwell standpoint. I will not be able to look at Rockwell this week. So basically, you know, again, that school has to be validated to ensure everything's working correctly. So, I mean, again, it shows it on paper, yes, but from a true control simulation standpoint, I can't say that it's doing what it should. I could look at the PID loop and I could say the programming looks good. I could look at the balance report and say, yes, we're getting the values, but to truly see the system is doing what it's being told to do, such as, you know, adjusting static set points and so on. Yes, in theory, you can see something's happening, but, you know, again, we need to make sure all the dampers are operating correctly. So from a Rockwell standpoint, no, I cannot confirm I'll be able to look at the controls implementation for Rockwell by Friday. No, I will not be able to do that. My suggestion was only just as to, you know, as you said, as a plan B, if we put the system in hand at that point, that alleviates looking at it from a control standpoint. But again, that is an operator sitting at the computer, because again, you're adjusting that system in the morning, you're adjusting the system in the afternoon, you're adjusting it really throughout the day. So that's really an operator monitoring that system. Yes. So if that path was chosen, there would need to be an operator.
Right.
You know,
well, I just need to have a cutoff point where, okay, we have to switch now to plan B. So, and that's going to have to be at least a day before the buses come here.
So Rick, are you looking at, is there a possibility, and would Chris Baldwin be okay with this, of you doing some work into next week with your reports and balancing, et cetera?
I absolutely could do that. And the reason it's not done from our standpoint yet is the work isn't done. So it's not there for us to perform the commissioning. You know, for the rest of the week, I am, you know, tied up on Friday. But again, we will certainly, you know, make this a priority. We actually worked all day Saturday assisting and reviewing a balancing report for this project. So we will certainly adjust the schedule, you know, to ensure that from our review standpoint, we are making the review. But again, I can't comment on work that isn't in place yet for us to review. I can't say yes to the 8th or no to the 8th because it's not in my hands at this point. I don't have a completed system to review and say yes or no.
Okay, hey,
you know, I
Rick.
could say if it becomes available, we'll do our best, but it's not complete in front of us at this time.
Okay, hey, Rick, I have a question. Maybe it's probably not to you, but it's to maybe to Ken and Jim. Are we running extended shifts? Are we getting personnel there, and are we doing everything we possibly can with these trades? Because we really are down to the wire.
Absolutely, and we have been for some time now. So what we're up against now is we have Rick again tomorrow. We don't have him Thursday and Friday. That's not his fault or his problem, but that's what we're up against now. So Rockwell, the balancer's over there today. I would expect Rick, he has the first floor, the second floor has been done. I would expect him to be in decent shape tomorrow. We can certainly speak in the morning. So for me, the question becomes, assuming we get you everything you're looking for, we get you remote access, what do we how many days of next week are we talking about before we're able to hold ourselves to the standard that Chris is looking for, which is ventilation?
All right.
From a day review standpoint, I mean, honestly, that's very difficult to comment on. You know, if you assume a perfect scenario, you're looking at a few days. But I mean, that's not the case. I mean, to talk about the series of events, just the first half of today, you know, I can't give on a perfect scenario. It will take me roughly 3 to 5 days on a perfect scenario. If I show up, I have minimal comments, just general comments on fine-tuning the loop and everything being in place for me, having associated remote access to dial in, having a test and balance report completed by tomorrow morning, having a legitimate schedule in front of me, 3 to 5 days. But again, those 3 to 5 days could escalate if there's items that need to be further coordinated. So from my end, I have roughly 3 to 5 days.
Understood.
So yes, if I do have a completed control system 100% tomorrow, a completed testing and balancing report 100% tomorrow, and everything is fully functional, yes, we can certainly complete our work by the end of next week. But unless I truly know what's not done on the back end, it could really lead to a lot more questions. You know, when you get into the controls and the loop, I mean, looking at one item on, you know, a fan not modulating correctly based on duct static pressure, I mean, you start looking at the fan horsepower, the damper positions. I mean, it could really bog down a couple hours of time that you've lost versus signing off on systems. So again, a perfect scenario is 3 to 5 days.
Hey, I'm going to go back to Rizzo. Just speaking in general, we're putting all the pressure on Rick here. And, you know, the pressure is really caused by Rizzo not getting this completed in time. You know, I'm starting to lean to the fact that the TCO should be gotten by Rizzo per se. You're going to have to certify per se. We'll bring Rick in after these systems are up and running in total. You know, on the TCO, you know, why wouldn't you guys be stepping up to the line and get whoever you have to do? If you have to manually override the system, make it work, send a letter to Chris Baldwin saying that you're going to, you know, verify that the ventilation requirements are in place, and then we'll test the systems out later. That's a different approach, because we're putting an awful lot of burden on Rick to ram stuff through when it's not done correctly, and it's all going to have to be redone. And it's not right.
Can I ask a question? Have that conversation with Tony and.
I mean, Jim, I don't think it's our burden to have to, you know, to jump through hoops here, you know, because of Rizzo's, you know, someone fell down on this, and you know, it shouldn't be up to our side of the equation to make this situation work. And I'm, you know, I really take some offense that we're jumping through hoops to get this TCO for you guys, when it's your obligation.
Okay.
Okay, what?
I think we got it all backwards, okay, guys?
Yeah.
That's my
I mean,
point of view.
So, and I'd like to put in too that.
Can I remind you guys of something? Can I remind you guys of something, please? We have $700,000 worth of abatement change orders in that building alone that we overcame and are still talking about getting a TCO for the 28th of August. At no point in this process did we say, hey, throw up our hands between COVID and between doing the abatement work and say, there's no way you're going to get your school in the fall. So when we talk about maximum effort and we talk about everything that we've done to try to get ourselves to this point, it's very simple to look now and say, hey, what's not done here? As opposed to saying, what did we have to overcome to get here? 3 weeks ago, we had a 10 by 10 hole in the admin area that your principal is working in right now. 2 weeks ago, we put 2 new columns in a building where right now we're talking about putting kindergarten students in. So we understand what it takes to get ourselves to this point. We understand that we're now pushing a lot of things onto Rick. But if we didn't have to demonstrate and we didn't have to demolish how many square feet of concrete floor in that building, maybe we wouldn't have any of these issues. So yes, we understand what needs to be done here. And if we need to do something where we have to present a letter that assures Chris that this is the ventilation being provided, I'm not an HVAC man. I'll take that information and I'll get an answer for you as to whether or not that's something we can do. So that's exactly what I meant by okay.
But, you know, Jim, I think that would be a more rational approach, to be totally honest with you.
I'm not arguing with you one bit.
I mean, you know, why should we, you know, and I'm saying it for everyone, to jump through hoops to put together, I'm going to call a bastardized system to make it work. I'd prefer to just be honest with Chris Baldwin and say, hey, we can make the ventilation requirements. That's what he's looking to do. We'll come back later when everything is up and running and we'll commission it the right way.
I don't have a problem with that, and that's what I meant by okay.
David Horvath, you had a question?
Yeah, so I hear a lot of concern about ventilation, proper CO2 levels, temperatures, all that fun stuff, right? If the system is somewhat operational, next week looking at the weather, it's supposed to be cooler at night, 50s, high 50s to low 60s. Do we just run the systems, bring in fresh air, ventilate, push everything out of that building that we can possibly push, and keep it a positive of, I don't know, Rick will be able to tell me, I'm not sure, but if we can go to like a 0.10, 0.15 positive pressure on a building, and bringing all this fresh air in at night, and then during the day, we close down the fresh air intake as much as we possibly can. So it's kind of overcooled in the morning, and as the day progresses, it warms up, but doesn't get to the point of overheating. Is that a possibility? You'd be running the system 24/7, but is that a possibility that anyone can say?
That would certainly help. Absolutely. You know, when you run the ventilation system at night, run the compressors, you know, it allows you at that point to better subcool and dehumidify to hopefully get the school down to roughly, you know, you could probably get it down at night to 40, 45% RH in all reality. At that point, you're blowing all that hot air out during the night. Then when you switch over to cooling mode, at that point, you can even stage the system. You could take the system and stage it. So, you know, as long as, you know, you can have a set point of 45, you can write some brief logic in there that, you know, if you go past 3 a.m., and as long as the space RH is below 48%, you say switch to cooling mode. You have a cooling discharge of 55 degrees, and you monitor it based on return humidity. And based on the return humidity, at that point, you modulate the hot gas reheat to, you know, keep the space as cool as possible. And after keeping the space as cool as possible, you're able to slightly dehumidify, you know, in the event that it is a humid night out. You could also modulate the outdoor air damper much more, you know, you could also modulate that outdoor air damper closed if the outdoor dew point is higher than the return side. And then you could maybe just return and circulate that air from a cooling standpoint. You could certainly program all of that in. It's absolutely possible. Again, it's just, it's different logic into the system. So the only point that happens is that's absolutely doable. But it's, you know, so the only question would have to be, is it's time for the programmer to add that in.
Right.
So the only thing
I tell you, that should be our target.
Is just delaying the sign off of the original contract specifications.
Right.
So we would be doing that, but then the possibility of signing off on true cooling from a ventilation standpoint, that might be delayed and or deferred because we want to, the overall hope was to approve contract specifications. Once contract specifications are approved, the second stage to this is implementing the CT, CDC, ASHRAE guidelines for COVID-19. So once those are implemented, it's pretty typical standards to that, which we would be doing that same logic in theory with the unit, over pressurizing the space, you know, monitoring based on space return. So that's kind of the second implementation as part of this job, that we want the actual control system to have in place prior to the students coming in. But we just wanted to get the original sign off first per project specs, and then
so you might give up A
accordingly.
You might give up A to get B to get you through what you need to do. And just for the rest of the folks on the phone, I'm not trying to downplay us as a dummy. Everything cools off at night, right? All that block is going to cool off. All the desks, all the materials in that building will cool off. They will retain that coolness for a while during the day, which help keep everything else cool. And then obviously as the day progresses, you get the humidity and the heat into the building, which gets absorbed again by everything. So it's just a cycle that you will do. It is possible to do it. And I think Rick is very, very capable of handling this and getting this set up the way it should be set up.
Yeah, that should be our target, guys. That really should be our target.
So is that something that Rick and, I mean, Rick's around tomorrow, but not Thursday and Friday, but Rick and whoever might need to be part of it from Rizzo, Bob, can work on? Because I think while all of us had great concern about getting a certain number of things finished so that we got our TCO so we could open school on September 8th, a lot of the discussion here I think is helping people who were questioning that understand that yes, we can get to that point, or maybe some of you are still thinking no, but yes, we can get to that point. A lot of this discussion would normally happen in a trailer meeting on Thursdays or on the job site, et cetera, not necessarily in one of our meetings yet. As I said, our concerns are not sure what we as a commission could actually do to get things moving through, but our concerns along with Board of Ed folks, you know, are we going to get to that place? Because we've been told by Christine we have to, where school's opening on the 8th, and we have a TCO in place, and we don't have answers about the TCO because Chris Baldwin's not here. So I think, you know, the people who are going to need to continue to do their work, Ken, Jim, their whole entire team, Rick and parts of his team, you know, Bob, Terry, et cetera, you know, we need to kind of, if anybody has any more questions, we can get them answered, but we also want to be able to get them back into doing the work that they need to do.
Absolutely, Betsy, but I think it's important if Jim and Ken can kind of run it by Chris Baldwin to see if we can just get a general sign off on the TCO for the venting requirements, because I think we're putting too much of a burden on everyone, okay? I'm not saying on Rick, but on everyone to rush it through in the incorrect way. So, you know, my preference would be that we try to get our sign off, you know, with, I'm not going to say minimal effort, but just trying to get this thing verified for the venting and the health safety items, and then go about it in the correct manner. That maybe does take a couple extra weeks.
David?
So just a quick question. Are the systems operating on like a 12-hour schedule now? What's the operational?
Good question.
Do we know, Rick, or anyone? Can anyone?
The schedules were in process of being finalized.
Okay.
I understand a day or two ago.
Okay.
They should have been finalized for Johnson, I believe, yesterday or today. Rockwell, like I said, we haven't looked at any of those systems yet. But I understand they were finished for Johnson, but again, we were preoccupied with other items today. And again, I understand they were just completed. So, you know, based on how the system is accessible, it's just, you know, from a time standpoint, we just went to, you know, all the critical items first. You know, we're kind of stuck plugging into the wall inside of the electrical room with several other people, several other computers. So, you know, we're only able to fit so many people, you know, in there, hoping to get it done this week. But again, it's, you know, it's really based on, you can only go so fast with one laptop computer plugged in, simulating, you know, all the associated alarms. It's not even like we can bring more people in with more computers because there's only one port for certain JACEs. So,
So my thing is, Rick, it wasn't really so much about that as, I'm sorry, I should have been more upfront, descriptive. I'm thinking, do we start running the units 24/7 or 20 hours a day? And just so everybody understands this, obviously the electric bills go up. You're gonna have to change the filters more often. There's gonna be other costs associated with doing this, but could this help us reach our end goal sooner and have the buildings set up by the teachers without being them sweating to death in their stagnant air and all that fun stuff?
So I mean, to do that, you could really simplify some of the control programming. You know, really.
That's what I'm saying.
In theory, operating this in hand. You know, in theory, with some general, simple control logic that will take not a lot of time for somebody to implement. This can absolutely be done. You know, honestly, it makes sense from a comfort standpoint to do it this way. It does, based on the chiller not being operational and the other systems where they are. You know, I do agree with Dave. I agree with Bob. This really is the best way for occupant comfort. For occupant comfort, this is the best way. But again, it's increased energy bills, and it's a system from a control standpoint that we just defer and go back and reprogram and sign off on a different time. You know, but again, I'm in agreement with looking at this system this way to open the building from a TCO standpoint. I mean, from my standpoint, I have no issue with it. I mean, if that's the way to go, I will certainly jump in. I'll certainly do whatever is needed from that standpoint to commission it. All I need from my end is what direction are we going in, so I know how to write my functional checklist. So I have no concerns customizing it that way. I just need to know that's the approach, and I will move forward accordingly on my end.
Right. And the question is also right now, are we running MERV 8 filters through this for the systems? Is that what we're...
My understanding, the current system has MERV 8s. Okay. Recommended per the guidelines are MERV 13s. I don't know if there's the replacements for the Jobber 13 or not. That I cannot answer.
I wouldn't waste money on MERV 13s now. Wait.
Go 8s. Go 8s. Go 8s.
Go 8s. Let's filter out as much as we can.
Right.
And then 13s, I would put in once school is actually open and people are in the building, because otherwise you're gonna. I mean, the cost difference isn't that much, but you're not gonna do anything extra with the 13s now.
Absolutely, and you're not going to get them again because they're flying off the shelves. I agree completely. You want to save the filters until school starts. I'm just not aware if the ones to be replaced are 8s or 13s. That's all I meant. I agree with waiting. I just don't know what the MERV rating is for the replacements on site.
Okay.
Nancy, can I say something?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
All right. I was put on this committee for my opinion. And right now, my opinion is I need those fans working. I need the air blowing. I need it blowing all time, whether it's 20 hours or 24 hours. I need it on. I need to cool that building, whether it's night air or chillers. But I need a program written, a simple program, run it, and we could circle back there when time permits. And when Jim says everything's back online or installed, but right now, in order to open up the school, and I know Mr. Baldwin will say the same thing, get it running. get it running, get airflow. Dave, do you agree with that?
100%.
Okay. I mean,
So
you
is
asked us
that
on this
something
committee
that-
for our opinion, and that's my opinion.
No, I agree with Bob.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%, Bob. That's why I'm bringing this
So
up.
is that something Bob, Rick, and Ken, Jim, and Actionaire, et cetera, can work on tomorrow?
Tomorrow I got my morning meeting with Chris, so we'll begin that discussion with him. I have Vinny Savino on site tomorrow morning, so I'll continue that discussion, and Rick will be there, so we'll close the circle and we'll get it resolved.
Thank you,
Okay.
Jim. At least that's
And
some
I think
guidance.
Melanie-
At least that's some guidance.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Yeah. So Melanie, I think you had a question?
I did, Nancy, and I think this was already just partially answered. So from the perspective of the Board of Education, trying to plan and know when that TCO will be issued, who is coordinating with Chris Baldwin to determine which of these options are going to be acceptable to him? Is that you, Jim, meeting with?
Yes,
Chris
that'll be
the person. So I just want to know the point person who will have the most up-to-date, accurate information about where we are in this process and the timing. Is that you then Jim?
Yes, that would be me.
Okay. Then we'll be reaching out to you to see where things stand.
So in general, it looks like we'll have, we're working towards and we'll have the ventilation. We have plumbing that works, toilets that flush, kids can use bathrooms. We have lights that go on and off. All that good general stuff that we have to have this building open in less than 2 weeks, because in 2 weeks, it'll be the evening of the day that school opened.
Tomorrow
So,
with Tom, with the fire alarm, life safety at Rockwell, and we'll flow into Johnson from there.
okay.
Good.
Any other questions specifically for Ken, Jim, or Rick? So there's, in some ways, a lot of unanswered questions, but that's because the work is still continuing, and they're doing all they can to get it going. You know, we see one thing with the HVAC that's going to get dealt with quickly tomorrow morning, hopefully getting info to Chris Baldwin. And I don't know if Bob, you need to or want to be there too to kind of convey what we all talked about here.
Well, you heard my opinion. I mean, ventilation is, I think, the most important thing right now. Without that, we can't meet any of these COVID requirements.
No. Right. And so I think Rick's got that, Ken and Jim got that, so they can work on that.
Absolutely.
Can we move on to our next bullet, which is FF&E technology, playgrounds, et cetera, some of which needs to be in place or be put in place between now and next week.
Yes, so on furniture deliveries started yesterday. They'll be ongoing, various vendors showing up every day this week. Movers are on site, and I know that the custodial crew has been also working hard, moving things from the middle school back to the schools, internally moving around boxes. So I think we have that well in hand. Some items that will lag until next week are the student desk chairs. They'll be coming in one day next week, but that should give everybody a little bit more room to move around the existing furniture. And then of course, we've talked before that there are some furniture items primarily that have to do with the music rooms and the gym, and those are going to be stored anyways until later in the year. So we're not that concerned with that, but all furniture is on schedule that's needed for the day that school opens. Technology is lagging in a couple of areas. I know that there was a problem today with having E+ show up to install network switches. They're not coming now again until Thursday. Our technology consultants, D'Agostino Associates, were trying to put pressure on them and kind of track down what the issue is there. Similarly, some of the visual display boards are starting to go up, but they're lagging a little bit behind. We expect all of them to be installed sometime next week before school starts. So I think we'll be good there for remote learning. What else? Phone systems were supposed to start this week, but I think that Ferguson still has some work to do on terminations and putting plates on the wall, mounted brackets. But we will have phones by the end of the week as well. And the playground is in process of procurement. And as you know, we're not planning on that installation until October. So that's just still in the works in terms of getting it scheduled. So that's the short report on FF&E technology and playground.
Is there anything with either FF&E or technology that you're seeing as a big holdup, or is it just waiting as all that stuff comes in, but you're expecting it's not like, oh, it's not going to show up?
That's correct. Nothing is significantly delayed other than some music room storage, but the furniture that was scheduled to be installed this week is all on schedule. We always knew the chairs were going to lag a little behind next week, but you know, not that big a deal. Definitely going to be in before kids need to sit in them. And right now, both the movers and the custodial crew and even some of the furniture installers, they're just kind of moving around furniture to make sure that we only have the right number of desks in every room. Those counts have changed from the original plan. Everything that was a sort of a table-based piece of furniture, like in the art rooms, is being stored at the middle school, and desks are being put into some of those rooms instead. And maybe Bob can speak to this. I think I heard today that Ryan was bringing in 700 plexiglass desk shields today. So those all still have to be installed as well.
Right. And we're going to phase that in as we're doing the cleaning all next week. And then you also mentioned about where the Board of Ed's bringing in Belfour. And they're going to be here Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, along with my crew. I'm putting 6 people per building, and they're bringing, I believe, just shy of 20 in.
So to supplement the cleaning the construction cleaning, and then to get a jump on the cleaning, the extra cleaning that the district would need to do, yes, we're bringing in Balfour. And the plan there was to start Thursday and follow along behind where rooms are completed and furniture is installed.
And we're going to work up from 7:30 in the morning to 6 at night, every night.
Yeah.
So there's the different desk configurations, et cetera, are all not part of the original plan, but part of COVID situations where
it's all COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions for Geraldine on FF&E technology? Budget is our next bit.
Budget is our next bit. The Johnson budget update is Johnson. So the Johnson budget update is that we are billed through to 71% of the project, and construction has been completed to 77% at Johnson. That is in line with what we're seeing in terms of completion progress. And in the owner's contingency at Johnson, we still have over $2 million on hand and $83,000 in the environmental contingency there. So again, that project remains very healthy. On the Rockwell side,
not so much.
A little bit, just a little bit less complete, not because, you know, just because of probably the square footage and the dollar amounts, but we're 73% built out on all budget line items and 76% complete on construction at Rockwell. But the contingency at Rockwell on the owner side is now at $243,820. But I also highlight here, as I did on the Johnson budget, there is still money in the CM's contingency. Of course, some of that is being committed in this effort to get the schools open. So we'll continue to track that.
Any questions on the budgets for Geraldine? Now we have change orders to look at, or?
We do have change orders. We have change orders only on Johnson this week. To look at the change order log, let's see. We're going to look at 4 change orders. There's, I'll go through these individually in a second. 24 for additional roof drainage. Number 59 is actually a credit for a sewage ejector pump that became unnecessary. PCO 67 is associated with additional foundation work required at that front vestibule. Once the existing conditions were uncovered, we're still dealing with additional structural work there. And PCO 75 was to provide the conduit piping from the exterior location where the Frontier service comes into the building. This had to change location from where the original penetrations were and the original demarc was. So we had to get Ferguson to put in additional conduit piping from the new exterior location all the way to the TR1 room. So we'll be looking at that. Should you adopt all of those PCOs, and I only highlight this to show you where we're at on Johnson, we would have a total PCO amount to date of $349,400. And that still represents just over 1% of the original construction budget. So I will go through the individual PCOs. Number 24 for these roof drains. I may need an assistance, Joe, on exactly where this was. First let me just say, so it's proposed change order number 24. It's in the amount of $10,362.79. And I believe there are some sketches here that illustrate in a little bit of detail the fact that the purple lines indicate the original drainage piping that was shown on the bid drawings, and the green lines show what needed to change. And the changes were due to, Joe, help me out here.
We shifted the roof drains back to closer to their original positions to assist in the amount of tapered insulation and amount of roof work to be done. And that resulted in adding more net pipe to the job in total.
And did this also have to do with the existing documentation didn't accurately represent what was happening at the roof? One of those areas that
we shifted it out to keep it balanced, and
the steel was sloped.
The steel was sloped, so it would have required more tapered insulation to get to those roof drains. So the roofer felt that it was more beneficial, or I don't know if beneficial is the right word.
More efficient.
Right, so instead of having more tapered insulation, it's using the existing slope of the steel.
For the roof drains, to make the roof drains drain more efficiently? Got it.
Correct.
Okay.
So back up to the PCO.
So I'll start making motions. We can have more discussion if needed. I make a motion, we approve proposed change order 24 for Johnson School, revised roof drain locations in the amount of $10,362.79.
Second.
That's Dave Olson seconding. Any more questions on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone who's opposed? Motion carries.
All right, PCO 59 is the credit to eliminate a sewer ejector pump.
So I'll make a motion that we approve post change order 59 for Johnson School. Credit to eliminate the sewage ejector pump in the amount of a credit of $2,594.
Second.
Dave Olson seconds. Do we have to have vast discussion on this?
I hope not.
No.
Additional information, but a credit is always good. Yeah.
Take a credit. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Done. Motion carries.
All right, PCO 67. This is for at the entrance vestibule. This is for additional footings and concrete work. As you will recall, there was a change in design of the vestibule because when the old vestibule, or in the area of the old vestibule, when it was demolished, it was discovered that parts of the building that are to remain were actually supported by the vestibule. And again, I think it was a matter of existing documentation, existing drawings, not showing the accurate situation. In this case, this is a change order for changes in the foundation of the new vestibule because a little bit of exploratory excavation in the area revealed that the existing slab there could not support the new design. So this is a change in the amount of $5,314.72 to add the necessary foundation work to hold up the new vestibule steel.
Okay, so I will make a motion that what's the number of it again? I can't see
Sorry,
it.
67.
67. I make a motion that we approve proposed change order 67 for Johnson Elementary School for additional foundation work needed in that vestibule area in the amount of $5,314.72. Dave seconds. Do we have any other questions on this, or I mean, I think this is part of that whole ongoing vestibule situation.
Yes.
And assuming it's necessary, obviously.
And it is.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. We have one more.
Yes, so PCO 75 is for the additional conduit running from the exterior entry of the Frontier service line, actually from the exterior pedestal through the building, and then along the corridor to get to the T136 room. So this was done on a time and materials basis by Ferguson. Originally, they had estimated a much higher cost to do this, but they went ahead and did the work. And based on the materials and the time tickets presented, we're recommending approval of $9,755.51.
Okay, I will make a motion that we approve proposed change order 75, is it, for Johnson School?
Yes, it is.
For additional conduit installation in the amount of $9,755.51.
Second.
Dave seconds. So this is another situation where it had to be moved because the original penetrations into the building weren't in the correct place.
It actually had to do, with not even just the original location didn't work out with the plan. It had to do with a Frontier requirement, as I recall, but I don't remember the details. This was definitely something that came up once construction had started, and was the work, or the need for the work, was actually coordinated by David Airy and Frontier.
So, and then you kind of got on Ferguson to give us a good price, and we appreciate that. So, any other questions on this? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody? Is anybody opposed? Okay, that one carries.
All right, that is all of the change orders for today.
Okay. So next bullet on our agenda is to look at the Rockwell boiler room, and I did send out, and Geraldine included it in the documents, an updated proposal from Weston and Sampson, because John Menti pointed out that the completion date to get the report done, since they had given it to us actually at the beginning of the month, and we didn't get to have a meeting, wasn't going to happen possibly in a timely fashion. So John, you want to jump in on this?
Yeah, so basically, in a nutshell, Weston and Sampson would come out. They would look at the room. In the report, it talks about what in their letter here, it talks about what they want to do. One of the things that Malcolm Beal did point out to me, he goes, because of the concentration of the PCBs, will be classified under the EPA as a bulk waste in the federal regulations. He goes, that's actually a plus for the leniency and how they would handle this. The proposal they're looking to do, the RIP, is basically come out and put together a plan and how we would handle this situation moving forward. And he said in a nutshell, he said, you're probably going to end up scarifying the floor area, putting a two-part epoxy coating over it. And he would also recommend putting rubber mats over that, because this way the flooring won't get scratched up if we have to move any equipment in or out of there, later on. The other thing that would be required is that the town would have to do on a yearly basis a air sample and a wipe sample in the room, which would then be put on record within the town that these are being taken care of. The other thing is, he said this work we could, by doing a request for proposal, we wouldn't have to do this work until probably next summer when school is not in session. A couple other things going to our advantage. This is not a student access area. It's a limited access to only people who would go into the boiler room. So it's not something that is manned 24-hour, an 8-hour day, 5 days a week. So all these things would account and go into this RAP. They've had very good success of getting these approved for other facilities and schools in Connecticut. And he felt that this would not be a problem overall. I know Roy was on the call with them, and I don't know, Roy, if you want to add anything else or.
No, that's good, John.
I'd like to just add that in conversation with both Enviromed and Jim Twitchell at Hygienics, this approach is pretty much what they both recommended, and the only difference is that neither one of them really wanted to take on the EPA and getting the approval for the work. But this is very similar to what especially Jim Twitchell had recommended happen.
So I
think Weston and Sampson is a fairly large company.
Yeah.
Offices in Mass, in Connecticut, New Hampshire, Vermont, New York, New Jersey, PA, Carolina, and Florida. So they are a large company, and again, they've had a lot of experience doing this type of work. And
they probably have more, like as you said, John, more experience, and so they're more comfortable putting up something like this together for us than Jim Twitchell and Hygienics would have been. So, and this amount would basically give them the go-ahead, approving this amount, give them the go-ahead to create the report and recommendations.
Yes. Yeah, they obviously the first thing, obviously, if we approve it tonight, I will let Malcolm know. Then, of course, the agreement would have to be signed. They would want to schedule a site visit, and of course, I would have to have Bob. I would probably go myself and Bob Giovanaro there to answer questions about the room itself and the facility with their people. Then they would take and put this report together and present it to us before they go to the feds in the state with it.
Okay. So, and this would be something that would probably come out of our contingency, I would think.
Yeah, and I think this, and I don't know, maybe, Geraldine, maybe this may be covered under the state reimbursement.
Yeah, we're going to add it to the project expenses and also add this particular expense to the environmental total that we're going to ask for the additional funding for. So, yeah.
So John, do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I don't have the dollar amount in front of me. What was it?
It's $11,900.
Okay, that's what I thought. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the report, the proposal by Weston and Sampson for the Rockwell School boiler room PCB wrap in the amount of $11,900.
Okay. Bob Germanero seconds. So does anybody have any other questions on this? I think it's...
I'm curious, one quick thing is they only have one iteration of talks with the state and the feds. John, do you think that's logical, or do you think it's going to require more?
They felt it would be, when we talked to Malcolm, he felt it would be sufficient. He said typically when we send our proposal in, sometimes they may not even have any questions. If they do, they would have everything, pretty much set. So he felt that this one visit would not be one meeting would not be a problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Dino, are you thinking that like there might be a back and forth, but John, you're saying usually that doesn't happen?
Right. Well, that's what he said it to us. He says we try to get everything wrapped up in one shot, just in case, and we try to answer all their questions, anticipated questions ahead of time.
Okay.
Good.
So I think everybody probably had a chance to look over, at least I looked over the initial pages. I didn't read all 77. I don't think anybody did.
That's all part of the agreement with the state as far as being on their,
I know, and they got to put examples in, and yeah. Okay, any other questions from anybody? So we can vote on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is anybody opposed? Okay, so then, does Matt have to sign this?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think you probably
have to sign this. Yes.
So who has an original copy, or should I print some of it? John, do you have an original copy, or was all done electronically? John. I'm
sorry, I had it muted. It was all done electronically.
Okay, so I'll print the pages that are the actual proposals, quote, contract, and bring that to Matt to explain the situation and have him sign it. And then I'll have to get that to either you or I can mail it, I suppose, unless if they want a hard copy, with a wet signature, I'll have to mail it. Otherwise, I'll be in touch with you to figure something out with that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to give Malcolm a call tomorrow.
Okay.
And let him know, and ask him if they want it back electronically or a hard copy. I'm sure they probably want a hard copy, but.
Or they may take a scanned copy to start and then follow up with the electronic. But we'll be in touch. You and I will be in touch on that.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I think this is a good plan. Next on the agenda, professional services, additional service requests. Just briefly, the subcommittee did have a meeting and discussed this, started looking over some specific line items, etc. And I think Roy, we can agree that at this point we're not in a position to feel like we can make a decision yet. We're going to continue to review. And if we have questions of Joe Collada and Joe Costa, we will come up with those to perhaps even sit down and discuss with them, because Joe Costa did say originally if we needed to meet to have our questions answered by them, that they would do that. So Roy, I don't know if you have anything more on that.
No, that's correct, Nancy. We just have to continue to review it, and we just didn't come up with any resolution at this point. So, we just have to have further discussions amongst ourselves at first.
Okay. So that's where we are with that, but we'll continue. We're not gonna let that slide. We'll continue looking at that.
Hi, Nancy, it's Joe Collada.
Yep.
Just want to point out, we've been tracking along since March the amount of time spent. And again, in July, we were under the original anticipated amount that was in that proposal. So we are continuing to track well under the proposal amount.
That's good,
Okay.
Joe. I
So-
appreciate that.
Yeah, we appreciate that, Joe. I don't know if you have, I know you had given us a couple of but I don't even know if it was a spreadsheet or anything with.
It was just an
with a couple
email.
Right, but if you could, keep tracking that and give that to us, and then next time we meet, we can take that into consideration.
Okay, I could update that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'll point out, so we had an estimated, in that spreadsheet, so the anticipated amount was the original amount anticipated in the ASR. The estimated is basically an average of the first 4 months. So for July, we did go over the estimated at Johnson, but we were well under on Rockwell still.
Good. That's good, Joe. Thank you.
Yeah,
welcome, Roy.
thanks. Okay, so if you continue to track that, that would be great. And if you give us updates when you have them, that'd be great too.
Okay.
Invoice review and approval. I think we have a few. I have a few.
I only have 3. The rest of them we're holding for our regular first of the month meeting, so.
I think I had an ESC, a couple of ESCs, and
Yes. I was planning on 2 ESCs and an Enviromed, but that's all that I distributed.
okay, because I have one from school specialty.
Yeah, as I explained last time, those items have not even been delivered yet, and they.
Okay, so we're holding on to those until we get them. Got it. That's a good plan.
Yep.
And I have ESC, but I don't have the Enviromed, so we'll have to do that one. I'll make notes on it and print it so I can sign it.
Okay.
So throw something up there.
ESC, so we have 2 invoices from Environmental Systems Control. These are both for security work. At Johnson, they are billed up to 98% of their contract, and this invoice is in the amount of $4,275. I believe that the work that they have left only involves the connections between security camera feeds and card readers at the actual network equipment. And the reason that's outstanding is because that network equipment has yet to be installed. And at last glance, Ferguson actually was still punching down some of the patch panels. But the equipment is there and the internal wiring is in place.
And will that be functional for start of school?
That all depends on getting the network up. So yes, yes, the intent is to have it operational for the start of school. It is not clear that that will happen, but yeah.
So I'll make a motion that we approve invoice from Environmental Systems Corporation, invoice number 1186219 for period ending August 31, 2020, which hasn't happened yet, but that's what the invoice says.
Yeah.
For security systems at Johnson School in the amount of $4,275.
I'm sorry, what was the amount again?
$4,275.
Second.
Second from Dave
Oh, I see it.
Olson. Yeah, second from Dave Olson. So $4,275.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Any questions, et cetera, on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is anyone opposed? Done. Then the other one for environmental systems.
It's for Rockwell.
Rockwell.
At Rockwell, they're billed out to 90%, and the amount of this invoice is $13,300. Similar state of completion and scope of project.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the invoice from Environmental Systems Corporation, invoice number 11866218, ending date August 31, 2020, in the amount of $13,300.
Second.
Dave Olson seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Done. And then I have to write the details on the Enviromed one down so I can find it and print it. Unless it's sitting in my mailbox somewhere.
So this is invoice 19059.
Yep, I got it. All right, so I make a motion that we approve this invoice from Enviromed Services for, is it probably Rockwell?
It is for Rockwell. This is, as you can see from the dates, it is for monitoring and testing in June. You can also see that most of the testing that was done on a rush basis at a premium. This relates back to Jim's comments about continuing to have to abate floor paint and take out concrete. So this is just the entire month's worth of monitoring and testing, and it includes the glue daubs in room 104, in the gymnasium, on the walls, many other rooms here that I have listed. There was monitoring of PCV paint on walls as well as on floors, and the removal of concrete and the removal of contaminated soil. And the full amount of this invoice is $36,564.20.
So I make a motion that we approve Enviromed invoice number 19059, dated August 14th, in the amount of $36,564.20 for all kinds of environmental stuff at Rockwell.
Second.
Dave Olson seconds. I hope we're getting, I mean, if this is June and we've got more for July.
Yes, there will be a full month of July, and I believe that actually the only thing that was left under containment was a small area near the receiving area, and I'm pretty sure that that's done now. So I am hopeful that we are done with Enviromed after July and a little bit of August.
So we got a second from Dave. Any more questions or comments or anything on this invoice? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Done. Okay, so like I said, I'll find that one. It's in the document, so I'll just print it. Yep. I thought I had it, but I don't. So that's it on invoices. That's also it on the specific bullets that we had for the school projects. However, that doesn't mean we need to be totally done. If anybody has any more questions, comments, etc., you can bring those up. I know that the team is all still here, and that you're going to be working on continued progress for opening school on September 8th. I think, Melanie was asking who the point person would be to be in touch with Jim Delaney, but I'm assuming that Geraldine, either you or whoever's on site, Matt, whoever's on site, are going to be a part of that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody has any questions, we'll continue to pursue them. Obviously, questions specific to construction progress or completion progress, we're going to take directly to Jim. So whether I do it or someone else reaches out to him is, the same.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Schools.
Hey, Nance?
Yeah.
Because we're coming down to the wire here, we're at the 11th hour, and before the school folks jump off the call, I really think that maybe we need to do a special meeting on next Tuesday, September 1st, strictly to talk about school review and updates. Not paying bills, nothing like that, strictly where we're at this point in time. I know we have a meeting the following week on the 8th, but, in case some action needs to be taken place, to get school opened. I mean, it probably doesn't have to be a long meeting, but I think we should really think strongly about having a special meeting next Tuesday. I'm just throwing it out there.
Agreed.
Well, I was going to ask that, would it be a good idea? And it could be, being a special meeting, we can just put on the school project and not discuss anything else because we don't have much else to discuss. But we could have that on there, and if, hopefully we'll get some updates throughout the week. And, I'll be in touch with, I'm not sure when Kathy's back. We'll see about getting an agenda out and posted. Be in touch with Geraldine about any specific items that we might need to put on there. I suppose we could wait till after the trailer meeting on Thursday before we put a specific agenda together, because being a special meeting, if we put items on, that's kind of really only,
right.
If we need to put some general things on there so we can really discuss the whole entire school process and project update, we'll definitely put some general things in there so we can make sure we talk about just about anything. So is everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
I might be broadcasting from a really bad computer, so I hope if it cuts out, I'll call in with my phone or something. David, you got something there? Or?
Yeah, I just want to bring up a couple of things because I know, like we always beat the hell out of everybody, but today on site, I went and met Rick this morning. A couple things that I noticed. First of all, American Paving. I do know that company pretty well. I know actually the guy that was driving the paver today, and his whole life is around paving. So, it was funny. We talked for a quick second, but I'm very happy to see they were on board. CNC Concrete down at Johnson. I drove through there at probably like 4:30, 5 o'clock today. They were still out there smoothing the curbs and did a really nice job down there. And it looked really, really good. So, some positive things I want to put out there and, give some kudos because, it is coming along. Granted, it still looks a little iffy in some spots, but it's coming along. And a couple of things that Rick and I talked about this morning that hopefully he can come back to me or us sooner than later with the gas ball valves. That was the last thing that I had to worry about. I mean, the ductwork, we talked about that and how the ductwork on the roof of Rockwell did not look good still to this point. But
is that still being worked on? Do we know, Joe or Ken and Jim, is the Rockwell ductwork still being kind of anchored and being worked on?
Yeah, they've replaced the ductwork that needs to be replaced. We still have David, we haven't addressed the issue with the engineer of record with the insulation.
Yeah.
Only because we've been busy, with other things. But why I need to get it addressed is it's the same detail at Johnson. So,
yeah, it's a very interesting detail.
So I do have to do that. We'll make some time, by the end of the week, hopefully there'll be a little bit of daylight and we can make some time and do that and coordinate that with Joe.
Thank you.
Any other questions from anybody?
No, Nancy, I just want to say, thank you for your patience, everyone here. There's a lot of pressure putting us on the school side, and just bear with us. Don't take this all personal. It's not personal. And Jim, thank you for being very responsive, and Ken, to all our questions. I mean, we have baskets and baskets of questions on an hourly basis to you, and you've always been very respectful. Thank you.
The only one I'm afraid of, Bob, is Dr. Carver. So you guys are easy.
Okay.
All right, Jim, you're being recorded.
I think she knows it.
Yeah. Well, I think she kind of has to get things going and get things where they have to be. But I appreciate the input from everybody, and Ken and Jim, and coming from different members of the Public Site and Building Commission, us as a whole and individual members, our concerns, I'm glad that you've been here to answer them. Our concerns are for the project as a whole. As I said, we as a commission don't have the capacity to actually step in and do stuff. We make approvals according to what we're allowed to do, et cetera. But when we see stuff, we want to say stuff because we want to make sure things are, and I think you probably appreciate that too, because we may see something that you may not have seen. So, you know, team, I'm glad that we've all been able to work together on this. I hope we continue to move forward with getting things completed to the point where, you know, teachers and kids are in school on Tuesday the 8th and they're safe. And we still have a ways to go to complete the project, obviously, because we knew that there was going to be site work and et cetera going on into the fall. And we have some other things that we obviously need to complete in the fall also. Any other input, et cetera? I mean, can we maybe get some sort of email update at some point? I don't know if that would be a good thing to do, maybe Friday, or what do we think? Anybody have any ideas?
Nancy, from my end, I can certainly send an update on the commissioning end. I will certainly send something out. I will do my best for Friday, but I will say I will have something up by Saturday, if not Friday. So
Okay.
it could be sent to all by then. But I will send a week progress out by end of the week. You know, I'll put together a general summary overall and have something out of what was completed on site and you know, all the activities that we've moved towards for the remainder of the week. Put down what we've accomplished and what's still in progress. I'll certainly have something out by this weekend.
Okay.
And I will update the files here on the shared drive. There were, I think we do have commissioning reports up here in a file, and there were a couple of reports issued on yesterday from work done last week that I haven't uploaded yet, but we'll make sure that everything's you know, saved here so people can go back and reference the progress.
Okay. And anything that comes through to from anyone, sometimes stuff gets sent to Geraldine and me, and then I have to forward it to the rest, or I'll forward it to people. Geraldine usually puts it up on the drive.
Yeah.
But that way we can keep people posted on what we know. Okay.
Done.
So I think we're done with school stuff. We still have to have a little.
Nancy,
Yep.
are you going to have a special meeting on Tuesday?
Yes, Tuesday, the September 1st.
That's what I thought. Okay.
So we will do that. We'll get that together. We'll figure it out, put out an agenda, all, et cetera. School folks, we're done. Unless Joe Colada, I don't know if you have anything else that you need to put in, because we asked you questions, but I don't know if you have anything specific for us.
No, I don't think so. I mean, we're going out punch listing. We've issued the first floor punch list, second floor punch list for Rockwell. We completed the addition at Johnson punch list. I'm finishing compiling that. I'll be issuing that, and that's about it right now for us. I mean, we're gotten through all the RFIs, and we have a couple of submittals out there, but nothing too major.
Okay, well, thanks. All right, so school folks, thanks. Everyone else stay on. We do have another item on our agenda to just do touch base on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you.
And to be clear, I'm being selfish about this because I want my kids out of my house.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, thanks.
Okay. All right.
So just on the police station, I don't have much. I get requests, you know, for updates from Chief Pugner and Jeff Anderson from Downs periodically. I did get one just yesterday. So I asked Matt Knickerbocker, and as I said at our special meeting last week, the Board of Selectmen has hired an engineering firm to do a review and look at the reports, et cetera, so that we, the town, have our own individual report that we can then take and say, all right, this is what we're going to do. That is in progress. However, Matt didn't have a timeline for me, so he's trying to get a timeline because, as Chief Pugner has pointed out, it's going to get cold soon. So the amount of work that needs to get done, I think, could get done easily before it gets too cold, but we need that report to get pushed along. I had asked Matt, you know, this engineering firm, what's their first step? Are they going to go out to the site? Do we need to arrange to have someone meet them out there? And I hadn't heard anything back. So I'm hoping that the firm is checking in with the police to arrange something to get out there. So, and nothing else on the CO other than the email that Chris Baldwin, I believe I forwarded it to everybody. If I didn't, let me know, I'll do it again.
Yeah.
But Chris Baldwin did send along an email to Jeff Anderson saying, are these things completed? He gave him a list of some things that were on his punch list. And I don't know if they've been back and forth. And Chris also said, you know, if we need to meet out there, that can't happen until after I get stuff done at the schools. So he's spending a lot of time out at the schools.
Yeah, I had the same conversation, Nancy, because I talked to Chris on the same thing. You know, we both agreed, you know, the priority is the schools.
Right. And, you know, it's unfortunate that he has to say that to Jeff, but, you know, Jeff should have jumped on this back in February. Once the flagpole lights and the other issues that were outstanding were completed. They were completed in like December, January. I think those things were completed finally. And Downs could have jumped on that right away. So, so that's that. I know he's up to his eyeballs and more with, you know, not only catching up because there were so many inspections and things that he couldn't get to, you know, in March, April, May, June. So he's got a lot on his plate, but, you know, we'll keep up with him too. Anything else that anybody else has? So I'm assuming our special meeting will happen same time, 7 o'clock by Zoom. Like I said, I'll figure out an agenda and all that and get that out to you. And again, it'll be hopefully a short meeting, as John Menti said. We won't be doing invoices and all that unless they're absolutely necessary. Those can wait till our September 8th meeting.
Cool.
All set?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I was waiting for that.
Second.
I second. Everybody seconds. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Done. Good night, everybody.
Take care, everybody.